What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are on CannaBuzz right now. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a minute. We've got a great episode for you today. We've got Aaron from NYC Rooted. We're going to be talking to a grower here. So this is going to be a great episode for you. I know everyone who's subscribed to the feed, it's been a little while. We had to take some time off. And then we also, just so everyone knows, Stripe decided to get rid of our account. So we're kind of dealing with the issue that pretty much everyone in this industry deals with, which is you got to figure out what you're doing with your payment processors or whatever happens next after your payment processor drops you. So that's what's going on if folks were kind of curious. But that all aside, business aside, let's now get into the episode. Like I said, we've got a great episode for you today. JR put this one together and he connected with Neptune Seed Bank. We haven't talked to them for a while. Is that right? I saw that on the sheet today. Very cool.
Yeah, Neptune also kind of took a little bit of a break there for a minute.
Right.
But now he's doing good stuff. I mean, he's got a lot of clone business going on in the California market. I don't know if he goes out of state with his clone sales. Knowing him, he probably does. But yeah, Neptune's kind of back at it again. I know that him and Brad and those guys are heading over to the MJ Berlin thing over there they're having right now. So that should be interesting. But yeah, head up Neptune Seed Bank. He's got all the breeders that he's always had and new stuff in. And so yeah, check out Neptune Seed Bank. But today, we're fortunate enough to have Aaron on. And I'm at the season where I'm just going outdoors. And I've been working with living soil for a bit. So I've got some personal questions, and I'm sure you do too, because Aaron is an amazing organic grower who has put in the time to get educated really well. And so we're going to be talking about foliar applications, and we're going to be talking about, horizontal growing. So welcome to the show, Aaron.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Stoked to talk about all of these things.
Yeah. And it's been a while since we last talked to you. So kind of give us an update of what you got going on.
Right. Yeah. I have a few new projects in the works. I recently got to spend a couple of years running a micro license in New York. So that was quite an experience. It was cool, but I'm really grateful that I got to get my product into the market and just kind of showcase what we can do with a living soil system. It had been a while since I had actually run full cycle plants. I was doing a nursery project for a couple years. And, before that was out in Colorado running a really large living soil facility, which ran horizontal beds, something that I know you want to talk about today.
Yes.
So that's a really cool topic. When I came to New York, I consulted with another micro license called Taproot Fields, and we implemented a horizontal system there, which has been working amazingly for them. And they're about to build out their second greenhouse bay with the same system. So that's really cool. And then, of course, 2 years at the company I've been working with has gotten me a bunch of cool connections and really plugged into the New York market along the way. So it led me into two new opportunities, which are happening at one farm outdoors. I'm getting two licenses that are stacked there with two different friends who own awesome brands in the New York market. And we're going to be running some outdoor there, half of it for hash and the other half for, flower like pre-rolls or, I think might even be selling dimes, which is crazy.
Nice. Bringing back the dime bags. That's how I got started.
Yeah. So I think one of the guys I'm working with has a deal for that where it's like that they want to buy dimes, and that's like wild, but really cool. So we're going to grow some really nice outdoor for that. Looking at ways to cover it a little bit, maybe too, and just, it's an outdoor license, so we can't use lights, but it's all going to hash anyway. Outdoors, great. So that's that. And then I'm also partnering with an indoor license that has a small part of their canopy built out already. And we're coming in with one of my same partners from the outdoor project, and we're going to build out the rest of his allowable square footage.
Oh, nice. And so
Yeah.
are you going to kind of mimic what you had just done with the last setup with the horizontal bed systems? Is it going to be a mixed light
Yes, actually,
situation?
it's an indoor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's going to be cool. We're going to really dial that in. And it's going to be, I don't think there is going to be in New York another horizontal living soil like raised bed. There won't be another style grow like this in the market. So our product should be very unique. And of course, like it's all about the genetics. So I'm really excited to like start delving into genetics in a way that I haven't gotten to, with some really adequate veg space and like a great nursery that can support a cool genetics program. And so it's a lot of exciting stuff.
And so will you be having like input on the genetic selections as well?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll be the grower, I guess, especially at the beginning. Like I'll be the head grower or whatever. But I'm going to quickly replace myself in that position. And,
Yeah, for sure. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, my highest value, I really know is not like cutting clones and doing transplants. All valuable and necessary work that should be done by the absolute craftsman, right? Like, I think that I'm hoping to find someone or someones, many people really, as the projects grow and expand, that are like just super into the craft, you know, because it's just it's the quality is the main thing and always has been for me. And while we're trying to run a profitable business and put out like a lot of good product, like it's still just as like it's got to be just the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
seems like today, especially in a flower situation, if you're putting out flower to market, it has to be really good to get a price because there's metric tons of mids from
yeah,
every state, coming in everywhere. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So,
And when you prioritize the quality like that, it's like luckily throughout everything I've done, I've never had to get a price lower than the top of the market.
yeah, yeah,
That is something I don't ever want to stop enjoying. Like whatever the top tier price is, we are getting that no matter
yeah,
what. It's
yeah,
like we can count on it's something you can plan your business around as well. Like
yeah.
if you know you can maintain yourself at that top tier price point, then you can actually make plans for that. And you know that in some cases it's also resistant to the swings because there
And
it'll
from what I hear, I mean, I don't know if it's just guys hyping stuff up on the streets, but prices are coming back up because the demand is outreaching what supply is, if which is kind of hard to believe, but
Interesting.
well in New York. I may be wrong about this, but it feels to me like it's mirroring the regular economy, and that the weed economy is a K-shape sort of thing that's going on, where you've
Right.
got like prices are going up and doing great for some people, but for the majority and the price in the overall market is still going down. And there's cheaper and cheaper weed showing up all the time. That's characteristic of any new market, though, I think.
Could you so earlier you were talking about how a couple of the grows that you're involved with are converting over to the horizontal growing. Was that right?
Mhm.
So could you like I think I've talked about this stuff on the show before, but I can't quite remember the details. So kind of give us me and the kind of listener like what was the pitch to like converting? Like why go through this process to convert, and then what do you feel like is the quality difference that comes out at the end of that?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So, the whole philosophy with living soil is that we create a ecosystem in the soil that houses life, and then we feed that life. And we're not focused on feeding the plant. We're focused on feeding the soil biology, which cycles our nutrients and makes them naturally available in forms that like you can't get from a bottle. You can't get thousands and thousands. It's been shown that plants can absorb huge molecules, like stuff that just is not something we're making in an industry scale. So the biology delivers the highest quality nutrition. Now, a lot of that biology does not thrive, did not evolve to live in peat moss or coconut coir. Like this biology is, specifically the real important ones like mycorrhizal fungi and stuff. They do well in natural soil. So that means sand, silt, and clay added to it's not like you shouldn't use peat moss at all, right? But like just making sure that you have real sand, silt, and clay in your soil adds to the diversity of the soil food web in a huge way. And that adds to the diversity of the nutrient cycling and the overall diet that your plant has access to from the food web. So not to mention there's a bunch of other benefits too, like having real minerals, having real clay colloids in the soil, like the chemistry type stuff that is present with when you start using those materials as well. It just kind of takes it to a different level. And I think the depth of the flavor and the experience, the effect is like greatly enhanced by that. And it makes sense to me that it would be as well.
Well, something I've been that's been on my radar lately is rhizophagy or phagy.
Yeah.
And it shows that the roots of the plant actually not only do exchanges with the microbes, but they draw them in. And they process and eat some of them, and then they spit some of them back out through the root, through the root hairs to go back out and do business, come back again, and do that whole suicidal cycle. But at that time, those bacterias and those microbes are literally present within the tissue structure of the plant itself, and they're saying that. They're working on demonstrating that it's not just within the root zone, that it's actually up within the flower and within the rest of the plants too.
Oh, yeah.
And so all of that, they're trying to tie into secondary metabolites and the production of terpenes and cannabinoids and stuff like that.
Yeah, if they can figure out the connections between those things, it'd be really, really cool to know. I mean, it's incredible what we can discover with science, and the whole rhizophagy process is
It's insane, huh?
Yeah,
it is.
It's like they absorb these things and then they're like dissolving their cell walls with some kind of a super oxidase or something, and then it's like a naked protoplast floating around inside the like cellular fluids of the plant. And like you said, I think it goes everywhere. So it's like these things are exchanging nutrients with each other, the plant and the microbe, and vice versa probably. And and then it rebuilds the cell wall before it ejects the things back out into the
That's wild, huh?
They're farming these. It's like they're like
ants farming aphids. Yeah,
exactly, like you said. In the soil, it's the exudate profile, I'm sure, which is the profile that the roots exude, like literally exude out of their roots, is a makeup of a lot of different compounds, and it calls whatever microbes towards the root zone that it wants, and then it just engulfs these things or however it absorbs them.
Sucks them in, yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's intelligence involved, right? Like it's just not random. Like the intelligence of the plant and the root structure are working with the specific microbes, are bringing them in, processing them, spitting them out, doing exchanges. And I don't think it's just some like random chemistry thing. I think there's literally intelligence built into what they're doing.
Yeah. It's really wild to think about.
So kind of explain, because when we hear horizontal, people don't really understand the layering of that. So can you kind of break down, starting at your base layer, because I saw you were literally like digging clay. It looked like right out of the earth of
Hmm.
the place where you were at. So can you kind of
Yeah.
explain that process?
Yeah, so there's an ideal ratio in terms of texture. And you know how when you send a soil test in, you can get a physical test as well. So they'll tell you what percentage of your medium is made up of sand, silt, and clay. And somebody's got some background stuff going too that
I
kind
was
of,
gonna say,
yeah.
is that you or was that Bluey?
Sorry about that. It's my son watching something. I'll mute my my Zoom. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, thanks. No, but so you can figure out what your percentage is, right? And let's say I go out and I test the soil in the back lot or wherever at my facility. I'm gonna use that soil hopefully to make some new soil, right? But you can find out how much sand, silt, and clay you have percentage wise in your soil, and then you can source materials like just clay, silt. You know, we brought in a silt heavy mix, had each piece tested along the way, and you're looking for a certain ratio, right? Like that's ideal. And normally what they call that is a loam, and we're making a sandy loam. So you know, that usually comes out to somewhere around like 60% sand. And then you're going to have like the clay and the silt are going to make up about another 30% of it. But then there's another 10% we always add in that's organic matter, because you're kind of mimicking a natural horizon in the soil. Although I don't know if there would really literally be 10%. There wouldn't be 10% organic matter down 6 inches, 8 inches below. Most native soils don't have 10% organic matter or anywhere
Right,
near that. So
right.
yeah,
Look at it if
so
you get an inch.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's got 3% in it. It's like that's decent soil, of organic matter wise. But we'll add in more peat moss or more of our topsoil mix, which is usually just a potting soil. It's peat moss, and so the top layers normal. I use Build a Soil a lot. I love their soils. Awesome stuff. But a lot of people use Kiss Organics. They use all sorts of different brands and companies out there for your O horizon, which the O kind of stands for organic matter, I guess. Since the most of it is in the top. In nature, you got like leaves falling off trees, decomposing, old all the plant life.
Logs, whatever.
Yeah, the detritus from nature, right? And so that's your top layer. Your bottom layer, I always start with a drainage layer that's pure mineral. I also like to make my containers as sip planters if I can, so they're sub-irrigated. And what I do is I put the first layer is always a drainage layer anyway, so it's just sand and gravel, sand and stone. I try and use a lot of different sizes, and I try and pick colorful rocks of different varieties because the different colors are different minerals and stuff. And even though it's a long term breakdown, like you might get some mineral release from that bottom layer, especially if you got roots down there all the time and you got like water and my next thing I'm trying to set up is I'm going to keep that water circulating and see if that makes a
Oh,
difference.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of using the friction to kind of break things down as a solvent, almost like dissolving some of this mineral and making
Yeah,
it
maybe.
available.
Like, I mean, how it happens in nature, I would assume, is like that their groundwater's not always just sitting there still.
No.
Especially like imagine if you're planting plants next to a stream
Mhm,
or a river or something, a lake,
mhm, mhm.
like waves are coming in or the stream is running and that stream's going in underneath the bank on the sides and that water's probably moving all the time.
And I
For
think the gravity of the moon raises and lowers water levels as
yeah,
well, and so
yeah,
that's probably creating a flushing effect in itself. And
yeah.
so you've got your kind of filtration, or you've got your lower layer where you've got your rocks and sand and stuff. And so then, like, so say you're in like you were like in about 4 foot beds. Were they like, how deep were your beds? 4 foot
Beds
about?
beds were 2 feet.
Beds were 2 feet. So how much of that bottom layer is going to be your rock and gravel and sand?
I usually do like 5 inches or so.
Okay.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 inches is enough. And that, like, have you ever used a earth box before?
Yes.
Yeah, you know how it's got a riser on the bottom that
Yes.
keeps and you build your soil on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, like your rock layer, you can think of as the same thing as that air gap, that or that
Okay.
that bottom where that's where the water sits, right?
Yeah.
So same thing, except it's filled with stone and sand.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I make it like 4 or 5 inches tall just so I can have a deeper amount of water in there. And then all you got to do is drill drain holes along the side of your bed or on the ends or whatever. I've got some ideas on how I can keep that water running all the time, sort of like a recirculating DWC or something. But I think that that constant movement may cause a little erosion and mineral release. Who knows if it's any better or different than what essentially was a flood and drain instead of a recirculating. It's like I had tubes at my last place I designed with that, just like an earth box, it had a fill tube. So you could just like fill it that way.
But you also had drainage as well. Like you strategized how high your drainage was, I believe, so that you could have some ground sitting water, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want it to overflow like up into your A horizon, which is your second layer on top of the drainage layer. That layer is your sand, silt, clay mix with organic matter in it. If that gets waterlogged with 10% organic matter in it, you can get some anaerobic situations because organic matter is going to decompose. And if it's down there near the bottom and it's like wet all the time, that's not good. That's why you want to. That's why the earth box also has its overflow will not allow the water to come in contact with the bottom of your soil because the drain hole is lower than the bottom of your soil. So yeah, same principle there.
And so in theory, like the actual bed setups, no matter how large they are kind of mimicking what that earth box scenario would be.
Yeah.
But you're just building in all natural materials versus. And so when you get above that, what are your next kind of layers moving up that up
It's
the line?
It's just those 3 layers. You got your 4 or 5 inch drainage layer, no organic matter, so water can just sit in there, all the time. Then you got your A horizon, which is sand, silt, clay, and organic matter. I slowly blend the A horizon into the O horizon. So it's not a hard break. It is a hard break from the E horizon, the drainage layer, to the A horizon. That's a hard break, just like the earth box has the riser. The A horizon just begins right at one level and then it blends up slowly into the O horizon, which is pure organic matter. And in some sense, it's 33% or more peat moss. Probably the build of soil mixes I'm using are probably like 50-60% peat moss. They have some compost in there, and then they have their drainage amendment like pumice, or and I think they use rice hulls too.
One of the things I've kind of been having issues with the pumice is they were recommending a fine and then they switched to have you just do the medium. But even still, at the end of the mix, I feel like it's robbing oxygenation. I feel like the mix is dense, like very dense. And so, what do you kind of do to kind of make sure your oxygenation levels are optimal for the root structures?
Well, one thing is watering. Like if you can break your watering up into more frequent events, there's gas exchange every time that happens. So that's one thing is bringing fresh oxygen in through a watering event. A lot of living soil growers will just water once, or maybe you've got blue mats set up or something like that that keep you at a constant level all the time. That works too. But if you can just do multiple events and there's less time in between that it's sitting there going stagnant, that keeps fresh oxygen in, coming in regularly. So that's one way to deal with that. Now, structurally, which I think is what you're thinking of mainly, is you can always top dress more amendments, the aeration component, you know. It's not ideal, but if you have to break up your soil and add more amendment into it, of course you can do that. You might destroy a lot of the fungal networks and, you know, complex microbiology, but whatever. If that's what you have to do to not buy, you know, a shitload of new soil, like a commercial project, that would suck to have to like, you know. But I will say I know people that are running, people like Steve at Green Life Productions. I don't know how many cycles that freaking guy is on at this point. Like, and he does not have too much trouble with like compaction and lack of oxygen in the soil. I think you got worms, obviously, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, those
Definitely.
do it. Just soil life. But yeah, that's kind of like the only things I can think of right now. You can oxygenate your water. Get the high DO in there.
I had a you brought up something at the top of the call that made me think of a question that I wanted to ask you. So you were talking about how your grow style kind of helps set you apart from others in the market, and then obviously the quality as well. But I was curious, in New York, are consumers are they appreciating the grow style part of it, or are they coming to you for maybe it's organic or whatever it is? Because you know, out here in California, and I don't know, maybe the same in Oregon to some extent, it still seems like people don't really understand what they're buying. They still go in and they look
Yeah.
for THC or whatever it is, you know. So I was
Yeah.
curious what you found, considering your grow style.
That's absolutely the case here too. I know for sure that most of the end consumer that probably picks up our product, maybe 10-20% of them are even looking into how is this grown.
Yeah, yeah. The other ones want spray packs.
Yeah. You know, so but what it is, what really matters is the dispensary employees and the people that are selling your shit. Like that's how your stuff moves in the store, especially when it's on the top shelf at the highest price. Those bud tenders have to be telling people, "Yo, this is what we're smoking. This is the fire in here," you know? So that's really the game, is like you get the bud tenders to recommend your stuff. And we don't do that ever by paying anyone, which is what people are doing a lot in New
Yeah.
York. Like it's we've never done that.
So what is it? Does that involve you, like you or someone on your team going to the and sorry for my son in the background. Does that involve you guys going to the store and spending time with the team so that they can like get to know and appreciate the story? Because it's like one
Yeah.
thing of just like, I don't know, a chick comes through in some tight pants and she hands out some pamphlets and some free pre-rolls and then jets, you know what I mean? And that's what I see a lot of times of these like activations or whatever. But
Yeah.
you know, you want to build a relationship so that they actually understand the story, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's all relationships pretty much. Like we don't really do much marketing, pop-ups, even stuff like that. Haven't had to really. But when we do go to stores, like when we make deliveries and stuff, I'll definitely bullshit with the staff and like smoke people out. So, and first of all, I'm the grower, I'm doing the delivery. Like where else is that going on?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that alone is like, hey, I grew all this shit. Like, you guys want to talk about it? Like, oh, I think this one's good and this one, and then you smoke them out with a couple different real nice dudes that you roll yourself, and they're like, this is. They just start to relate to it. Like, this is on a different level, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because I'm handing them like a sick doink that's fucking like, and I'm talking to them about it and asking them what they think about it, and it's like we just have a good time too, so they remember that. But
And it's
beyond that.
easy at any level. It's easier to sell something you're stoked about or you believe in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think people can tell that, whether it's me making the delivery or one of my partners that I work with.
Are you sure it's not those tight pants you're wearing?
Yeah, it should be, right?
Yeah,
I
the
wish it
yoga
was that
pants,
easy.
the yoga pants that you wore. Um, that's okay. That's cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's something that's always
Yeah.
kind of on my mind, as we experience these ups and downs in the market. So it's interesting to hear your perspective on it. Um, let's dive into foliar applications. JR, I know we've had one or two episodes about foliar in the last like year or so. And so I think you're keen to dive in on the subject. So what was your first question on foliar?
The thing I've noticed is that in certain living systems, if you're wanting to get the yields and you're wanting to get the production out of your plants, I feel like foliar feeding, I mean, and it's a good advantage no matter what you're doing. But I think in living systems, it seems to be more of an advantage and maybe a little more needed. Um, so with the limitation with what do you find are kind of the limitations within your soil structure and nutrient uptake that make you want to push something onto foliar levels, and what kind of things are you aiming at when you're doing these foliar applications?
Yeah, dude, that's a good question too. What are the limitations on the soil and that to deliver what I need? I would say a lot of times it's light driven for one. So like if I'm cranking my lights, that's the input that starts to push the whole metabolism harder. Once that's going, and normally I'm in a greenhouse anyway, right? So, but it's not that sunny around here, so there is a lot of light dependency we have. If we get a lot of sunny days, it's so funny. The sun is completely different. On just a quick tangent here, doesn't matter how intense the sun is, they just eat it up, and it seems to have a symbiosis with living soil, where there is never a pushing that plant beyond its, like, you don't see a deficiency ever with, if it's just like blazing sun out, as long as the soil has sufficient levels and a decent balance, right? That's not having nutrient antagonizations and stuff like that. But the limit, I think, comes in usually when I'm cranking lights, okay, and then whatever the deficiency is that shows up is what I can address with the foliar. So usually it's nitrogen. And that's usually just because the cycle, like when you're trying to, in a commercial setting, when you're trying to flip crops quickly, you can't be amended. You can't put down your nitrogen input really like before you harvest, right? So, but then there's another crop coming like right behind it. So, but your nitrogen and your, if you're doing just from a top dress, right, is going to be behind the, it's taken 2-3 weeks before that's really starting to cycle in through the biology. So it's these little gaps like that, and that's the limitation that I find is actually more from timing. Like if I wasn't under pressure, I could amend my soil and let it run. I'd run around to cover crops in between. I'd like freaking trick that soil out, and then I'd put the crop back in. But this is commercial, so I got to push through and keep the crops rolling, and there's always a gap somewhere because of the delay. I'm not putting down veg amendments and stuff when I'm in late flower. I gotta wait, harvest it, put down the amendments, and then there's a few weeks in there where they're growing and getting bigger. If I push them, it's nitrogen usually. So I'll do foliars of nitrogen, like soy aminos, and things like that are great. I like the Organics Alive products too, which are
I hear a lot of
fermentation
really good
based.
things about, yeah, I hear good things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I used to do a lot of KNF too, but those inputs are not, they're not meant to be nutritional, really. They do add nutrition, of course, but The design of Korean natural farming is not to feed your plants with those inputs. It's to steer, to influence, and to, really enhance the soil food web. That's why the backbone of that type of program is always the IMO product. The building of the fungal species in your soil is like the key focus of Korean natural farming. But back to the other question, and foliars, like the limitation usually comes from gaps in time, or it's really just like it's not that easy to balance soil all the time. Like if
It
you're running,
also has to do with transpiration rates, right? Like what is
yeah.
actually being brought up into the plant. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, so like assuming that you've got good environmental control and you've got like your vapor pressure deficits and things like that are dialed in to max your transpiration. That's where you're, because my main goal is drive photosynthesis as much as possible. Like that is what's going to convert smaller molecules like nitrate, if we're talking about nitrogen, right? Like that conversion process to build it into an amino acid and then into, more complex proteins and things like that, takes a lot of energy. So if I can get if I can get stuff in higher forms, that's goal number one, right? But then goal number two is how do I drive photosynthesis in a way that's gonna like convert those things quickly? And so I push it. I usually push pretty hard with the lights, and then I come back when I see an issue, or really try not to get a visual issue. The only way to really do that effectively is to be testing sap and tissue along the way. So when I have the will and the capacity to do that, I do. But there's plenty of great growers who never pull sap and tissue analysis, and they do fine. It's really when you're not trying to get really exact with it. Like I can pull a sap analysis and see, oh yeah, looks like manganese is lower than I'd like it to be, and then I can get a manganese, chelate product and foliar apply that, and it'll fix it real fast. One that a lot of living soil growers know is magnesium and Epsom salt. Like if you have a magnesium issue, or if you even think you have a magnesium issue, it's like get the Epsom salt out and do a foliar at like, half a teaspoon or a full teaspoon per gallon. And if you see that correct in the next like day or two, that was a
Yeah.
magnesium, the
Yeah.
spotting of the leaf and the
Yep.
intravenous chlorosis and
Yep.
stuff, right? Yeah. So Epsom salt's a great one. Like in an absence of testing to know exactly what's going on, it's like those are the types of things that you can add in, like just as little tools, right?
Yeah, and I know that like there are certain molecules that do better at getting through the stomata than others. Iron and calcium are rough. Like trying to foliar iron or calcium is not really effective at all. But like you said, other things like nitrogen. Nitrogen goes through really well, and you can green up your plants with just like I make the fish hydrolysate,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that they love that stuff.
Hmm.
And so I find that's strategizing how the needs of the plant are going to intake what you're trying to give it really makes a big difference in
Yeah.
what you're throwing down.
Yeah,
Another
and
thing
I've got
I've
a
been
good one
working,
for you if you want to pause for a minute. The
yeah,
iron and calcium thing. I don't want to step over it while we have an opportunity, because
yeah, go,
a lot of growers think that you can't get iron and calcium through foliar, and you
yeah,
absolutely can. And it has to do with oxidation states. So the right products are going to chelate something like iron in its reduced form, which has to do with the number of electrons available in like its outer orbit and shit. It's oxidation and reduction. They call it redox. Is a somewhat complicated thing that I do not fully understand still, but what I understand enough about, and that is enough for most growers, is that these things have to be in the proper form. So like iron, you can get as like say FeO3, which is the same thing as rust, I believe. And that's 1 iron and 3 oxygen. That
Oh, okay.
oxygen, yeah, FeO3, right? So
Okay.
like,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, those 3 oxygen tell you that this is probably an oxidized molecule. And the form that it's in, it has a certain number of like valence electrons. I believe I'm explaining this properly, but you need iron in reduced form. And it's one of the same reasons why when you are doing, say you're just doing tissue analysis, right? On a tissue analysis, it's really crazy. They've discovered that that iron usually shows up as sufficient, but you may be experiencing even a visible iron deficiency while still seeing sufficient levels on a tissue analysis. That's because the plant has the capability to take up iron in the oxidative form, but it doesn't put it to use. It just kind of shunts it away in the tissue. But it's not doing you any good. It's not like available to the plant to use in the way that it needs to. You need it in that reduced form. So there are actually products that are made specifically for foliar of things like iron that put it into the reduced state, and then it chelates it there, holding it in place in the reduced form. And the better ones have figured out how to make it last on the leaf for a while, because ideally you want that foliar to like sit out, kind of. If you're doing a nutritional foliar, you want a long period of contact with the leaf so it has more time to absorb. A pest spray or IPM spray, you might want it to just boom and then evaporate so there's no like light burn or phytotoxicity. But with a nutritional, you want it to stay on there a long time. And now imagine that iron is sitting there exposed to the air. It's flying through the air while it's going to the plant. And if it can't maintain the chelated state in the oxidated in the reduced form, the reduced form, then it's just going to become useless again to the plant. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you need a good product for that. And then calcium, same way, like amino calcium can be uptaken foliar. And I do think that calcium is an important one. My strategy with that is I just throw the kitchen sink at it. And I haven't had enough time to actually test and do like sap and tissue analysis and like run different experiments to see what's more effective or not. So because I don't know for sure, and I know how important calcium is, especially throughout veg and in early flower and stuff, like if you can front load the shit out of calcium because it's like largely immobile, it's not easily translocated within the plant.
And the molecules are large, or they like to bond to things. And so trying to get them inside through your leaf tissue could be challenging.
Yeah. I've heard that too. That makes sense. So like just getting it in there early though is really important. And because I don't know exactly what the most effective way to do that is, I just freaking foliar.
Yeah, that's great.
Tons of calcium, right?
Yeah.
Tons of calcium. And I use gypsum in the drench every once in a while to try and like just add a little bit of it that way. But yeah, I use Organics Alive calcium. That's probably chelated in a different way than this other polyamine calcium I use. And then even throw in like a KNF input here and there, calcium carbonate, like a WCA or something like that. I think those are maybe a little less effective, but still helpful, probably.
I remember back in the day, Extreme Gardens used to sell calcium carbonate product that you would basically put on. What about for me, I'll do 1 day of foliar with labs for my biology. And then I'll do the next day, I'll do like a blackberry shoot ferment or my fish. I keep those separate. When you're doing your foliar apps, are you also adding a biology component within your regiment? And if so, what are you kind of putting?
Yeah.
Using?
Yeah, ideally, yes. Compost teas that are good or compost extracts that are good, meaning I've looked at it with my microscope and I know that I didn't brew up some kind of whack shit that's going to be crazy. Um, but yeah, I'll do some of those here and there throughout the cycle. In the ideal world, where I have adequate facilities to do everything I want to do and the time to do it, I'll be making more ferments and doing more. Maybe I've even done some IMO or something. I don't know if I'm gonna put the time in to get back into that, but
Bro, it's a lot.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
to getting just IMO2 is just getting there is a lot to me, anyways.
Yeah, yeah, and IMO3 is really tricky. Once you get to 3 and getting those piles dialed in, there's a steep learning curve. Once you've got it, it's like not like you can do it pretty well. Like, man, I've seen Chris Trump do it, and it's like he knows what the pile's going to do way before it's going to do it, and so he can sleep at night. Whereas I've got the fucking
It's good.
alarm. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
got
right.
the pile's hitting 120, and I'm like waking up at 3 a.m. and shit. Like, no,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't come out as good either if you don't get it.
Right, right.
He taught me a lot of really cool stuff about how to time those piles where like you can get it so that like the temperature goes up really slowly, and it's because you don't want like crazy activity of the simple biology that causes a lot of the heat. So like the bacterial stuff, you kind of you don't want it to heat up like that. And if you can
Ramp it
control it,
up.
and
Yeah.
yeah, like if it's got more of a steady rise, first of all, you can predict it. It's not just going to spike. And because once it does the spike one time, it's like fucking out of control. It's like just you turn it and then it spikes again and then it spikes again. And you're just like, dude, before you know it, you got an IMO pile that's like that thick and it's just not going to develop like the fungus that you want the way you want it to. And, so it's complicated, but in an ideal world for biology foliar, up through like week 2, it'd be nice to rotate something in once a week for biology. And I would stay away from the labs once it's later in flower or once it's
Y-
closer to flower, I mean,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
into flower.
Yeah.
Labs is cool, but as a foliar, I don't like it as much. I think that bacillus like that is kind of aggressive and like man it's effective against PM sometimes for a minute, and that may be because of its acidity but also because that those particular bacterias will be kind of dominant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially in cases like rust, like if you got rust or if you've got PM,
Mm.
it's pretty effective. And I think it's more effective outdoors or more important in an outdoor scenario than maybe in an indoor scenario.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same philosophy I have with like encouraging biology in the soil through mulching rather than doing something like making IMO.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can make really good like Johnson Sioux bioreactor compost that looks as cool or cooler than IMO does under a
Yeah.
microscope sometimes.
Right.
I mean, they're two different things, so they not that one has more value than the other relatively, but that instead of having to go through all of the work to make complex inoculant inputs, you got to remember that things that break down, like carbon is broken down by fungus. So if you want a lot of fungus, you can mulch some carbon and you're going to see fungus showing up to break that stuff down, whether it's an endophyte that was already present in the wood or the straw or whatever, the leaf, mold that you're putting down, or it's something that floats in on the wind. Spore that's a saprophytic fungi just comes. Who knows where these things come from
Yeah.
sometimes?
Right. Right.
But on
Yeah.
that, we're going to
One of the
inoculate all of our aisles and rows in these outdoor projects with wine caps and stuff. So you can
yeah.
also bring in your own biology.
Yeah, I love that too. I love that. I love that. And wine caps, if you get them small and you marinate them overnight in teriyaki, they're so good. It's like one
Oh,
of my
yes.
favorites. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with your biology in your medium, are you feeding in any kind of sugars? Because I've what's been on my radar lately is the way specific sugars target specific micro products. Like I know molasses is kind of a targeting product, and so I got turned on to making carrot ferments
Mm.
because the sugary carrot ferment, you know, kind of supports a broader spectrum of feed rather than super targeted. And I know like molasses also likes to target E. coli and those specific groups. So are you doing that in these beds? Or are you just kind of letting nature take its course and you're not even implementing sugar into the scenario?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You know, it's like a lot of things where it's like it depends. But as a general routine, I do like to add sugar sometimes. And you nailed it. Like I would say it's the same philosophy as everything else, is that the diversity of the input, the having the wide spectrum of different forms of sugar, that's what makes the best result. You're going to feed a wide range of biology if you got complex carbohydrates and sugars, not just glucose,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
the
or
thing that kind of
sucrose or whatever.
the thing that kind of turned me on to that is we had Dr. Colin Bell on, and he
Mm.
said at the University of Colorado they have a book, encyclopedia thick, of specific sugar recipes for very specific microbes, like that dialed in, and so that
Yeah.
kind of got me into this mindset of like, okay, so if we're just targeting everything with molasses, then we're going to be basically out competing by feeding one group and not really giving another group the chance to thrive. And
Mm.
I've kind of started putting that into my own gut biome. So if
Mm.
I'm hammering my gut biome with corn syrup, say,
Yeah.
that's going to target a specific group of microbes. And those specific microbes are going to dominate. And that then is going to affect my mental health
Hmm.
because a lot of our mental health is very directed to the biome of our gut.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of, you know, putting that together. It's like that whole piece of targeting, through sugars, because those biomes and those nutrient delivery cycles are the same in our guts that are kind of happening within the soil.
Mm. Yeah. It's amazing how that works, right? And like the more processed it is, the more simple and refined it is. Usually, the biology that it targets and feeds is not what you want taken over. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And it's not something that would naturally take over and become dominant.
Yeah, I would agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing we kind of wanted to talk about, as you're kind of, you've got your setups, you're kind of pretty dialed in. The next kind of thing is genetic selection. I know you just did a round of Super Boof, and you were really pleased with that. In your market, are you leaning towards certain genetics that are going to hit, or are you kind of pushing the envelope and just going for stuff that is going to be fire, and then it's going to create its own kind of movement?
Yeah, so there's always a balance of both, right? And in commercial production, it's like you got to grow what's going to sell and move quick. If you get stuff sitting on shelves at a store, that is not good. So you got to, not only will that make the store less likely to want to get something from you later because it wasn't moving quick, right? But then it takes longer and reduces your revenue over time and all of that. So you got to get stuff that moves. Stuff like Super Boof just flies. It's the best seller. Stuff like Gorilla Glue, recognizable sour diesel in New York, especially. If you grow, I could just grow nothing but sour diesel, and it'd probably be a very good business decision.
Yeah, right. Or anything with diesel in the name, sometimes
Yeah.
even, right?
Yeah, yeah. But of course, we're trying to build brands that are not the sour diesel brand. Like somebody should do that, though. I mean, people are doing that, but because we love the weed all around, and we want to build a brand that's I think flexible and can grow. Like if you kind of limit yourself in a way if you're only growing certain genetics. But you do need stuff that's fast and heavy and that the market likes and that sells. So things like Super Boof, they fit into that category very well. I'm about to switch more towards the side of growing stuff and hunting stuff that can be unique to us and growing things that aren't being grown a lot in the market. To do that, you just need facilities that are conducive to it, though. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been running one large greenhouse and taking down a crop every 3 to 4 months. Like, that's that's not conducive to running like a whole bunch of different genetics all the time.
Yeah.
But if I got 6 different flower rooms on rotation and I'm taking one down every 2, 3 weeks, like now I can run a room that's an experiment room, or I can just, put a little bit of something in each crop. So we're about to have that, and we're about to have a veg that can support it.
Yeah, our consumers here in Oregon, a lot of them are now used to the idea of walking to a shop of 31 flavors. Do you find that in your market as well, where the consumer is starting to get keyed into the idea of different flavors and different profiles?
Yeah, there's some aspect of it is that. I think a lot of that though is just that they always want something new. Like there's a big majority of people that are always just got to try the new thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So if Zushi was hot for a while, now it's played out, and what's the next Zushi? What's the next, toad venom, whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, will you be able to do any kind of breeding opportunities, or are you going to be working specifically with certain breeders and doing their gear?
Yeah, we're gonna probably work with some of our friends. Like, I've got a close friend who's got a company called Madness Genetics that's making awesome stuff. And there's another New York facility here that's growing great weed that's also breeding and doing work with him. So we wanna support him and get his genetics out there. They're really really nice stuff. But then I got packs on packs that I want to
Right.
pop. Like
Sure.
stuff that I'm like, God damn, that's probably going to be good.
Yeah.
And
I
then I
hear you
see
there.
new stuff coming out all the time. Like, anytime I go on Instagram, it's like breeders are just coming out with some new craziness. And
Yeah,
yeah, I can tell, I think, what's really legit and what's not.
right.
Yeah.
We before we go, because you've been mentioning your brands and building your brands, can folks look it up online and kind of learn more about it, or should they follow you somewhere just to kind of stay tuned to what you've got going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram's the best. It's Aaron's Field on Instagram. My last name is actually Field, so you can
There
see
you
there
go.
too. Yeah. There's an underscore. It's like Aaron's underscore Field.
Okay, cool.
And you got to search it exactly, otherwise it won't pop up. But I keep that updated with like the brands that we're working with. Royal Genetics is one of them. They're already in the market in a lot of stores, and they're gonna be getting the weed in house now instead of buying it from the farm that I've been growing it at. Now it's going to be coming from our farm directly. And VitaBuds is the other brand that we work with. So you see that out there too. And those will be the two for the next foreseeable future.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a decent amount. This was a cool. We haven't done an episode in a bit, and it was cool to dive into such great grow knowledge. I really appreciate you sharing so much insight, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. It's cool. Always
Um,
like coming here.
yeah, man, I appreciate your time. JR, thanks for putting together today's episode. For everyone that's following us, stay tuned. We still have episodes coming out once a month or so is what we're shooting for, and we'll keep in touch. So just make sure you follow us on Spotify, definitely Spotify, and your favorite podcast app. They don't take us down over there. YouTube is kind of a hater, so you can subscribe over there, but definitely follow us and your favorite podcast app. But I think that's about it, JR. Any other shout outs before we go?
No, just for my own personal stuff. I got tokens roots, .c, you know what the rest of that is. And I'm providing a lot of what I call like stoner care packages. I've got Mullen for respiratory support. I've got lion's mane for cognitive stuff. And I've got the Ditz pain rub, which seems to be something that a lot of people are getting a lot of relief with. So if you could just hit me up at Tokens Roots. I'm still side hustling my clone menus. I did a breeding project last summer. And so I'm doing summer breeding, winter testing with the community, and releases in spring. I'm not doing consistent breeding where I'm cranking stuff out all the time. Everything I'm breeding is outdoor bred here in the Northwest. And I'm looking for cultivars that can at least stay until mid-October, even to the 1st of November. So if you could just hit me up on the IG, like Aaron, you got to put in every single J period, R period, underscore, token, like every letter to find me. And if not, some of your community member friends can point you to my account. But yeah, I'd appreciate it if people hit me up.
Awesome. Well, that's about it, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this week. I appreciate you. Aaron, appreciate your time. JR, thanks for your time. And as always, growers
Growers
love.
love.
Peace, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Peace.